Hey everybody, so yesterday we definitely got a really good example on this ThreeJS video. Got a really good example of like not knowing what you don't know. Like I did not realize that a torus and a ring are the same thing. But are they? Are they really? I don't know. Let's go to ChatGPT and ask. Um, so we'll go to ChatGPT and say in ThreeJS, is there a difference between a ring and a torus? And this is like one of those opportunities to learn something. And it's easy to miss these opportunities because, we're just so focused on getting things done as opposed to sort of paying attention to what's going on around us as we get things done. Mm, mm, mm. There is oh, wow. Oh, so the ring. Oh, okay. So like how a sphere and a circle. So a ring apparently is a 2D thing, not a 3D thing. Learn something new every day. So that is pretty useful. Um, I like that. Did I thought a ring would be basically a torus. So yeah, I guess it's like, yeah, we got cube and square. We got sphere and circle, and we got torus and ring. So that's cool. That's very cool. Um, I don't usually like getting like really in giving my opinions on politics, and the reason I don't is because, I mean, what do I know? I'm just a computer programmer. I mean, I feel like for most political things, I have my take on it, and then I make my vote, and I try to like if someone wants to know my opinion, I'll share my opinion, but in general, I don't feel like my opinion is of any true value other than in the aggregate as like I have a certain view of the world, and then like the my next door neighbor has a different view of the world because like he's a handyman, and then the next door neighbor on the other side of me is a realtor. So we're all looking at the world, we're all looking through different lenses, and then if we all go and vote, we'll all probably come up with the right answer. Um, but I could very easily be wrong because, like I have a very limited view. But there is sometimes there's a political thing where I think my view is a little bit more valuable than maybe a handyman's view or maybe a realtor's view. And that is, and in those cases, I feel comfortable sharing my opinion. And I would say that right now, what's something that's really big is the whole H-1B work visas. And I, in general, pro. Like, I think it's a good idea to get very, very bright people from other countries and bring them here and then, like, sort of as a country benefit from their brilliance, because there are a lot of brilliant people around the world, and a lot of them want to come here and then they want to share their knowledge of and their perspective, and I think that's a good thing. I do not like the H-1B program specifically, and only because I feel like it does. I feel like as workers, once somebody has sort of shown, like if they worked for like a year, they should be able to just change jobs. They shouldn't have to be beholden and stuck in the job that they are, and it is extremely difficult for H-1B folks to move over. I've worked with so many brilliant H-1B workers, and clearly we as a country benefit from them, and they bring a lot more than they take. But they like I remember working at one place where there was a guy and he was from Turkey, and he was one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. And he was here in the United States, and he really, really could not go back to Turkey for for a lot of really intense reasons. And basically, he was kind of like he couldn't change jobs either. So basically, I remember he had taken his family Orlando to Universal Studios, and then like while he was in Orlando, he the company decided they had like a production issue that they needed him. So he sat at Universal Studios online working while his family was walking around enjoying the rides and all that. But so like that's like something that you typically would most knowledge workers would not be interested in going on vacation and then sitting at the park working. But his choice was like a Turkish prison or be at Universal Studios with people laughing in a happy environment, coding. You know, like it's pretty obvious which one you're going to choose if you have to choose. But like if your choice is being on vacation and enjoying your family or being on vacation and working, um, those two choices, you know, and that wasn't, he didn't have that choice because he was an H-1B. And the way the H-1B laws work, it would take a tremendous amount of money for another company to take him for one. And I don't think that's fair. I don't like that. I think that this man should have been allowed to work here. And if he wasn't being treated in a way that I think that most people would expect to be treated, he should have been able to move to another company, you know, because he was definitely a valuable person. So that's the thing. Now, I see that I get a lot of people in India watching. The one thing that I see a lot of folks from India, like what'll happen is they'll come here and they typically really like the infrastructure here. Um, they often talk about like, you know, how reliable um, a lot of infrastructure sorts of things are. And the one thing that I've learned from working with a lot of people from India is that the life experience of Indians, folks from India, is different, dramatically different, depending on where they're from and what their situation back home was. But for the most part, they say that it, like in India, they typically would have like a driver, would have access to a lot more like fresh fruit, fresh food, those sorts of things. But on the downside, um, I guess the way like if they typically will move into nice neighborhoods here, their kids will go to good schools that have very reliable um, utilities and internet and things like that. So you know, like I've talked to like I probably had deep conversations with like 100 Indians. Every one of them had a very different life back in India. One of the common themes was that a lot of times when folks from India move here, they'll bring like a wife or a husband, and then they'll have children, and then the children will become very Americanized, and they're like, "Oh man, my kid would never make it back in India." Uh, you know, just they would talk about various cultural differences between India and the United States that their kids had become very accustomed to here in the United States. So then they were really stuck. So when an organization would say, like whenever I've worked with people in India and they would say, hey, you know, I know this is a holiday, but you have to work. They would be like, no, I'm going to go on my holiday and you can fire me and I'll find another job. And that's what the people that are in India would say, the Indians in India would say. But the Indians in the United States would typically be like, oh man, okay, so I have to work. That's a bummer. Is it okay if I leave a little early, or is it okay if I come in a little late so that I can watch my kids go Easter egg hunting or something like that, you know? So the folks that live in India, the technical people that live in India, enjoy a lot more um, freedom than the ones that are here, and then the ones that here are willing to put up with a lot more lack of freedom because of their specific situation. And the same goes for like I've worked for people that were from Russia and from like South America and stuff like that. And it's usually a pretty similar story where there are things they really like about being here, and then there's things that they preferred about where they were from. I think the most ideal are like some people, they'll come and they'll work for like 2 years, like they're like a single individual, and they just enjoy like the culture and the different environment, and then they after a couple years they go back home to wherever they're from, and many times they can continue to work with the company that they started here, and that seems to be like one of the ideal situations. But anyways, yeah. So in general, I do like the H-1B program and the H-1B folks, but I do think that they should get a lot more uh, freedom once they're here. And I do think that because they don't have freedom, they do drive the wages down, which is kind of a bummer, you know, like it's not the end of the world. I mean, they don't drive them all the way down to low rates, but they drive them to a lower rate than they probably would be. Um, but that's only because they don't have the ability, the freedom to move from job to job. And I think they kind of reduce the quality of life of American developers because they're willing to put up with so much. And, you know, like it's kind of weird when a manager's like, oh, I'm going to go pick out the Indian developer or the Russian developer or the South American developer, and I'm going to say, hey, you have to work this weekend, but I'm not going to do that to my American developers because my American developers might say no. And then like it's hard for them to want American developers if the American developers aren't as flexible and easy to get along with as the foreign developers. So it is complicated. I definitely think that I would be all for it if they would just say like if a foreign H-1B developer came here and worked for 1 year and earned like more than some median salary in that year, then they should get like a green card or they should get the ability to move without restriction from job to job. You know, once they've established that they are actually, um, you know, a productive member of society. Anyways, that is I feel like my 30 years of working with H-1B folks gives my opinion a little bit of value. I definitely may be wrong. You know, I'm definitely wide open to saying that I might be wrong. Um, but I most of the people I've ever worked with that were here on H-1B were just absolutely beautiful people that benefited, that the U.S. benefited from, and that's just my personal experience. So yeah, I probably lost some of my 248 people, and likely there's a good chance that Google or YouTube doesn't like what I say, so they may not push this video out. They may do something to my account, and whatever. It's like I don't really make anything off of this, so all my benefits are just from learning. But that's that. I probably won't talk about that again. I'll be happy to, um, you know, chat with somebody, in the comments or whatever. Um, I definitely understand the point of all both sides of the argument. The people who want more H-1B folks here, people who don't want, people who want them to have more freedoms when they're here, people who want them to have less freedoms than when they're here. Um, you know, and I I think yeah, that's what I think. Anyways, so yeah, so now we know a torus is just a 3D version of a ring. And last time what we did was we ended up, because I didn't know what the heck was going on, ended up hard coding a lot of stuff. I know that originally, since I didn't understand a torus, I made the tube diameter point or one, and then the radius is also one. So that would mean that the tube diameter, which a diameter is double the radius, is going to, if it's the same, it's going to have a sphere, which makes sense. So I think the default probably should be 0.4, which is the one that they give. So we can validate that this is working and that everything's wired up properly by looking in the when we create a mesh and we convert things to torus, and then yep, so it's 0.4, so that's good. Now I know that in the mesh service, I also sort of flailed around and ended up making these things hard coded. So hey Rhett, thank you for your contribution. Hello Rhett. Let's see, so let's go ahead and So I guess that is what I do for, and I guess I'll just, I don't think we need these other two, so I'll just let those become whatever the default is. I think this even tells you if I mouse over. Yeah, okay, so those were the defaults. So we'll do that. And then love you too, Rhett. So this, so it's going to be our mesh item. So this is where it gets updated. So radius and mesh item dot tube diameter. So let's see if that works. Add mesh, show edit form, and then torus. Let's just make this thing a little bit, the diameter smaller. So 0.1. Oh, that's nice. And 0.9. And then let's go back to 0.1. And let's go ahead and rotate it. 6 along the X. 6 along the Y, 6 along the Z, and let's turn it into like normal, and then let's animate it. I think that's very cool. And then let's slow our animation down. Let's slow the roll down to like 9 seconds. And then let's go to the camera and let's animate this. And what I want to do is I want to animate it, I guess, let's start at -5. So that's pretty cool. I think that is really, really neat. Now, the thing you got to keep in mind is that, so what the camera's doing is it's actually being updated constantly to look at the 0, 0. So I think if we were to take our mesh, I don't think the size is, the radius is animatable, but I'm not sure. Do we not see the radius? Oh, that's a bummer. Okay, so we do need to update to where you can see the radius, so where you can edit the radius, because the radius is part of it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to lose our cool animation, but you know, that's the way that goes. Control F, radius, and yeah, I should have added or torus geometry. And so now you should be able to update the radius of one of these bad boys. Torus, and then uh-oh, 0.8, 1. Oh man, something just totally blew up. So I don't know what's happening there. Add mesh, show edit form. Radius, torus. And the radius is 1 point, and then we lose it, 0.1. Let's see if we get a console log. Console log. Oh. So obviously something is getting, so this position attribute is likely a not area. So I think it's, I wonder, so mesh manager, I guess in the mesh service, let's see what we get when we, for the torus geometry, when we, let's go ahead and console log the mesh item. I don't see why the mesh item would get messed up. Let's see, what if we change it back into a sphere? Now let's change it back to a torus. Okay. So it does not like the torus being like that. So it doesn't seem like there's any problem with the mesh item, with the value, you know, because the sphere is figuring it out. But boy, it does not like something about that. Show edit form, add mesh. So it was very unhappy with something in here. So the radius is 1. I wonder if the radius is becoming a string. Let me clear this point. And oh, we don't even get there. That's pretty wild. So it's saying that something in here is really breaking everything, and I don't think it will not fix itself either. It's kind of cool that it's given us this. Oh, see, the radius is a string. I bet you that's what's... So like the quick fix for this would probably be... This is obviously not something you'd want to do, like if you're planning to... oh, weren't even looking at the right thing. Like this would be like sort of an emergency fix. We could multiply this by 1 and it'll automatically cast itself into. But that is one of the funny things, is like we use radius for sphere and all that. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if it's a string, but for some reason for torus it does. You know, so, you know, it's just like, obviously I'm in a glass house, so I shouldn't be throwing stones, you know, because I shouldn't have sent it a string. But like, why didn't it break on sphere? You know, it's one of those things that you've just got to be aware of, you know. Let's see, torus, and then, yeah, see, now it's fine. 0.3, 0.3, 0.1. So that's that. Okay, so I guess that's probably good for today, between my H1B rant, which, you know, I hope I didn't offend anybody. I really did not intend to. I definitely understand, you know, like American developers and being like, hey man, these guys are taking our jobs or whatever. And I mean, it's not, it's, okay, so I've always seen development as kind of like plumbers. Like if there's more pipe, there's more work. And so if you have coders over here writing more code, like for every hour that's spent creating new code, there's probably 10 hours created in maintenance of that code. So it's just a self-building system, that create every time any work is done, more work is created. So I think it's a really, really good thing. I think the only issue from an American side is that American developer side is that those people don't, the folks that do that don't have the rights that we have. So then they don't have the like they're willing to put up with a lot more than we're willing to put up with, um, which is like you know a bummer. Now I do have one major issue, and I don't, I like it when American companies in America, like I'm comfortable with American companies in America bringing in skilled workers to do good skill work here, um, for us. What I don't really particularly like, and I've seen this before, is like a foreign company who brings in um, foreign workers, and because like especially when that same company would not do that in their own country. So like, oh, we don't want to bring foreign workers here because we want to protect our culture, but we don't care about the American culture, so we'll bring workers in there. I would like to see that outlawed. Like if you're not an American company, you shouldn't be allowed to bring H-1B workers in the United States. Um, but that's more of like that's a restriction I'd want to put on foreign companies, not workers. I would love to see American companies. I think that that's perfectly fine. But again, I don't want to offend anybody or hurt anyone's feeling. If I made like a foreign company that likes to bring foreign workers into a foreign country that they isn't their country because they don't want those foreign workers in their country because they think they're too good for everyone else to go work there. If I offended you, if you're one of those companies, well, I don't care. I mean, this is America. We have freedom of speech. As long as no one's listening and only 10 to 15 people watch my videos, watch any of my given videos, and I'll probably only have like 4 people watch this video. So if one of you 4 people happens to own a company that thinks that their culture is so important that they don't want to bring foreign workers into their culture, but they want to bring foreign workers into the American culture, and if I offended you, well then screw you. Anyways, everybody, happy coding. Bye.